This is Future Phenoms, tracking football's rising stars. I'm Andy, and I'm joined by Nino Brown and Romero. We have a jam-packed episode after the intro. SC, Nino, what's going on, guys?
What's good?
That's good, my guy. Ready to talk some football. You know what it is. Excited for my wife's cooking for dinner, but we actually got some takeout today, so she didn't cook anything tonight. But all good, man. Ready to talk some good football with y'all.
Let's get right into it. Our first segment, names to watch for the 2024 college football season. Nino, you're up first.
I'm going to go with this sophomore wide receiver out of Buffalo by the name of Nick McMillan, 6'1", 224. He's got good hands. He works the short and intermediate game very well. He's shifty, good size and length to him. You know, you want to put the label slot on me. He's better in the slot than in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? He's a chain mover. Last year, he played in 7 games, only had 20 targets, right? But he did have 13 receptions for 180 yards and a touchdown, close to 14 yards per catch. But that was with no starts, okay? Now, 71 yards after the catch, he did have 11 first downs. But now, in that room, 3 seniors are gone. 90-plus targets and 1,100 voided yards are available for this gentleman. My only concern for him, really, is the quarterback. Who's going to be the quarterback, and can he gel with the new quarterback in that room? But I think the talent level there, he will be the go-to guy at the slot. And until the quarterback does get comfortable at Buffalo, they're going to pepper the guy who works the short and intermediate routes the best. And he's a good route runner, so he can get off his route, getting out of breaks well. So I think he's going to be a target early for Buffalo. What are your thoughts here, guys?
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit it on the money, and if you look at the spring game, he actually was. He had 6 receptions, 141 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I know it's the spring game. You can say what you want about it. But, I mean, any guy that goes out there and plays in spring ball, they want to go out there and showcase, right, that hey, I'm the next guy up. And he went out there and did that. I want to see a little bit more aggression. He had 25% against the contested catches. There are only 4 contested catches they had on PFF, but, still something you want to see a little bit more aggression. But he is very fluid, a very nice guy. And as you mentioned, he was just down the pecking order, if you will, just because there were seniors there. They're gone. He has the time to do it. And this is the time you see those freshmen or sophomores come in where it's like, all right, the veterans are now gone. Let's see what you can do. And I think he could take it and shine.
You mentioned the spring game, and when they were interviewing Coach after the spring game, and he was talking about just the young wide receivers in the room and what they got to do to make it work, and it's just stacking good practices and guys that, make sure that what we're seeing in practice is the same thing we're seeing in the game, and maybe not just stepping it up for the game or whatever, and vice versa. And he used Nick McMillan as an example, saying that this dude had a great spring and went out there and just blew the doors off, in the spring game. So he's just stacking what he's doing in practice and translating him to the big game. So I think this kid's going to be the guy for them this year. So I'm excited for
him. Yep. SC, who's your first guy?
So first one, we're going to talk about a running back out of Maryland. That's going to be Roman Hemby. This guy the past 2 seasons had over 1,600 rushing yards, but the more impressive stat is he had 71 receptions on 87 targets for 647 yards. Plus, not only that, he had 1,059 yards after the catch. This guy just knows how to get between them. He's very slippery. He has great size too. He's about 6'2", 200 pounds. Just a very great athlete that has that breakaway speed as well, has some good vision to maneuver around the defenders. I think this is a big year for him coming into Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, last year that run game was kind of skewed, right? He had 140-something attempts, but I think they had like 215 total. 70 went to Thalia Tagovailoa. So it's like, I don't know, the room was just weird. They didn't really want to run the ball as much. I know it kind of was more like a 60-40 passing team. But I think the addition to having that mobile quarterback at MJ Morris, or if they decide to go with Billy Edwards Jr., the ginger assassin out in Maryland, I think having that, again, I know it was kind of mobile, but to a certain extent. He could extend the pocket. I don't think this guy was going to be going out and ripping off 35-yard runs like I think both of those gentlemen can. I think his best attribute is his hands. The fact that he can be all three downs, right, and the pass catching capabilities that he brings to the table. I love it. I would like to see, maybe 165, 175 in the attempts, get to that 900,000 yard mark, and get up there in the eighth touchdown range. But I think this is the year we're going to see the ascension of Roman Hemby, in my opinion.
Nino, who's your next guy?
People are going to say, who are these guys he's throwing out there? I'm going out with another dot throw here for those who these CFL, C2C leagues, you're looking for a guy. And I think this could be a guy. He showed a little bit last year. Harvey Broussard out of Louisiana Raging Cajuns, 6'2", 183 pounds. I'm sorry. A former three-sport athlete, played football, basketball, and track. And it shows here in his game. He's a good route runner. He has good hands. He attacks the ball. Good hip movement, fluid. Good field awareness. He's got that stop and go capability, but he also has that contested catch capability. He has elite timing. Last year, especially 24 receptions, 317 yards, 2 touchdowns. You're looking at like 13 yards per catch. Now, he didn't get all the opportunity in the world, but in games where he was given, the time and the opportunity, he missed 5 receptions, 77 yards, a touchdown. That was at the latter end of the season, so that kind of something you want to pay attention to. Against UAB earlier in the year, he had 3 receptions for 65 yards, and against Old Dominion, he had 6 receptions for 36 yards and a touchdown. I think this is your wide receiver 1 for the Raging Cajuns. Whether they're looking to try to kind of find their identity as well this year. A lot of moving pieces in that offensively portal and moving on with eligibility. But I do believe that Broussard is going to be that wow factor, that guy that's going to be a downfield threat who can also work the middle of the field and just sit down in space and be open for his quarterback. So I think in a fantasy league and in someone that you're looking for that's not in his top, P4 programs, I think Broussard's the guy to look out for.
They hit it on the money with the three-sport athlete, track, basketball, and football. All of them go hand in hand, and that just shows his great athleticism and what he can do. I definitely think he could be a true alpha. I think he still needs a little bit more polishing around the edges, but because of where that wide receiver room, he is definitely going to be their X guy and just be their main target going down the stretch for him. Not really down the stretch, down the whole season for him. So I like that pick.
SC, who's your final guy?
We're going to talk about a guy from Texas State, and wide receiver Cole Wilson, transfer from Incarnate Ward. Had 65 receptions on 99 targets there. 65.7 of his targets with 733 yards. Just a phenomenal athlete. Had an ADOT of 9.5 yards there. Just someone that is very versatile, has that straight line speed, but also he can get small in the tight gaps. When the line's closing up or those gaps are closing on him, he can definitely get in between those big guys and just get in and then break away and get that speed. He's 5'10", 165. So you think about the smaller wide receivers, your Tank Dells, if you will, your smaller guys that are very quick and very elusive. That's Cole Wilson for Texas State.
Did Joe Dirt die? Did he get traded? Did they put him in the portal or something? Because my boy Joey Hubert's the guy over there, and he's going to be the number 1 target. But maybe in the case that they're bringing in a new quarterback and Jordan McLeod, maybe they're going to find who's going to be the wide receiver 1. One thing you didn't mention, I think that will work in your favor for Cole Wilson, is that Ashton Hawkins is gone. So you're looking at 55 receptions, over 850 yards and 3 touchdowns that avoided. So someone's got to fill that role. But he is that smaller guy. They brought another back into that room this year at Texas State to pair with Mandai. So I'm not sure if they're going to go with a 2-back system, in the passing game as well. But yeah, I mean, the game has shown that these smaller, receivers can reap the benefit, in this game. So there is a possibility, but I don't know how many mouths to feed they're going to be at Texas State. I know if anybody's going to be able to feed them, it'll be there in that offense. But for me, Joe Dirt's the number 1 guy. And outside of that, it's just a trickle-down effect.
And those are some names to know and write down for your CFF and C2C leagues. Now we're going on to our next segment, this or that. We are doing freshman versus freshman. First one up, Jordan Lyle versus Kevin Riley. Jordan Lyle is going to University of Miami. Kevin Riley at Alabama. SC, you're up first.
Man, I went with Jordan Lyle on this one. 2023 ran for 1,376 yards, 10.6 yards per carry, 21 touchdowns, 13 receptions, 177 yards. Just had great contact balance, uses his agility to sift through your defenders and just keeps his feet moving forward. this honestly, having Jordan Lyle go to Miami, I'm very worried about Mark Fletcher on what he can do because I think he's definitely. I love Mark Fletcher. Y'all know about that. I think Mark Fletcher is a great running back, but Jordan Lyle just seems like he's a little bit more electric than what Fletcher is. And plus, they brought in Damian Martinez as well. So this is just something where I'm just. This hurts my Mark Fletcher shares, but I'm really excited to see what Jordan Lyle can do at that next level.
It was Lyle for me, but unfortunately, it has nothing to do with David Martinez. He's a one and done. It's just 1 year, and I don't think Jordan Lyle was going to get many, crumbs on the table to eat this year as well. But if you look at the guys, Citizen, Fletcher, these guys have had injuries. So maybe there's a chance he gets in, featured a little bit here and there, maybe down the stretch if it can be. But I think his overall game is better. The things that you mentioned, I like contact balance, right? The back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's shifty. He can get a negative to a positive play real quick. I'm talking real fucking quick, right? He's got good bursts, great pad level. And that's why coming out the hole, my man knows how to square him up. That's what I didn't like really about Riley. More of an upright runner. I do like in the group of upright runners, but if you gave me 12 of the upright runners in college football right now, I'm probably going to back away. We've seen what happened with Brian Allen this year in the NFL draft, and it seems just more of these upright backs are kind of falling, and the value of them guys going into the next level has kind of been decreased. But then again, we're going to talk about the ranking system, right? Lyle's 11, Riley's 3, right? But one's going to Alabama, one's going to Miami. I don't think the schools matter. The talent alone, I mean, the separation is a number. It's not really that much, but I like Lyle's overall game. I like the fact that he can get small, get in those spaces, get out. He can run between tackles and shift outside. Kevin Riley's more of, like I said, he's that inside guy, runner, upright running. And Lyle's going to have more of that pass catcher capability. So give me Lyle.
I feel like you just brought up the schools. I feel we're getting into an era where the competition is being separated out. Like, don't get me wrong, SEC is still top tier competition, but I feel like you're getting some valuable assets in your Big 10 and your Big 12 there. Maybe not Big 12 as much. They're kind of going elsewhere, but you're still getting that same competition. So, like that school, yes, it does play effect as far as maybe draft capital. And, you have some scouts to scout that helmet, but at the end of the day, that talent shines more, and I think that's where Lyle comes in to actually showcase what he can do, and we might see a little bit of him this season.
I mean, Riley played in the 7A, which is the top class in Alabama, so I'm not taking anything away from him at all. But it's been a while since we got a big dog alpha come out of Alabama in the running back room. It's been a few years, and I know it's a new regime. I question the new regime. Well, I think he's going to be more worried about developing his quarterback and getting receivers than he is about developing that running back room. So a lot of the small, minute factors that all add up. Give me Lyle.
Next one, position versus position. Running back, Boise State, Ashton Jeanty versus running back, Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon. SC, you're up first.
So I think the obvious choice would be Gordon here, but I went with Jeanty just because I wanted to spice it up a little bit. I think Jeanty, amazing contact balance, doesn't go down on first contact. 2 seasons, 1,587 yards after the catch, 2,165 yards rushing. I just very like what he is doing right now in Boise State. I know the competition is way different here, and again, I think the obvious choice would have been Ollie Gordon, but I want to take that time to just say, Austin Jeanty, man, this agility and what he can do game between tackles is phenomenal. And I think he's someone that a lot of people are falling in love with or will fall in love with come in the season as well.
I don't know if it's as obvious as many people may say. You know what I mean? I kind of think that they're similar but different backs. So, like, for me, you wanted to say, it was the yards after contact, but I mean, Ollie Gordon had over 1,000 yards after contact, which is 200 yards more. But this is the stat that jumps off the screen to me. 3.71 yards after contact per attempt. That's what Ollie Gordon had. 4.59 is what Ashton Jeanty had. Okay, so there's the difference in the explosiveness and the difference in how they got their yards after contact. We start looking at missed tackles forced. Ashton Jeanty had almost, I want to say, 20 more missed tackles forced. He's more of a shiftier back. Yeah, Gordon will get missed tackles forced. He's going to run you the fuck over, right? You know what I mean? He's more of that physical back. You've seen it. Ashton Jeanty's going to hurl you in the open field. If he has any chance to think you're going low, he's going over you, right? So this was kind of hard for me because I think it's just, like I said, they're similar but different. And then there was some kind of, people might call it minute stats, but these things that came out to me. Ollie Gordon, a quarter of his production came from the left end, 53 attempts, 417 yards. And I say this because everybody shit on me about Bucky Irvin. He's not an inside runner. He only runs outside. This and that, right? Okay. Well, Ashton Genty, 60% of his production came from the left side, right? Now, if you want to look at the yardage, it's only 30 yards different to the right side, but 40% of his production in his overall on the field comes from the outside, right? So now I want to see this shit. I want to see what you do in the inside. Well, what you can do between the tackles, just like they questioned Bucky, right? The same thing I need to see. So for that case, I'm going to go Gordon here. I'm going to go the opposite. I think if you're for the way the NFL starts kind of giving contracts, one and you're done, right? You're going to want the guy who's going to give you a little bit of that bruiser. You're going to be the guy that can be there in the passing down. You're going to be the guy who really hasn't had any injury-prone questions going on. So I'll take Gordon for this one, but it's not as far apart as you think. And like I said, they're very similar but different.
This is one I guess I should have been a little bit more specific. I say obvious just in the sense of the schools. I think people will look at that like we always say, don't scout the helmet there. And plus what Ollie Gordon did last year, I think if you just say his name, people are like, oh yeah, he's a great running back. You know what I mean? So where Genty, it's like I still think he could do great things, but yeah, everything you said is spot on. And I think Genty does need to go out there and prove it to be considered one of the top backs of this class going forward as well.
Does it concern you, SC, that when Ashton Genty faces Power 4 competitions, he's averaged less than 4 yards a carry?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that needs to improve on. And that's a big reason why you look at those schools and you make a difference case on there, right? I think this is his back. You know, last year there was Holini there as well. So now it's just him there going in. So hopefully he can take on full responsibility to just be the guy and actually improve on that as well.
For the NFL, how are you guys viewing them as far as the NFL goes? Are you viewing them as a top 45 pick asset, like a round 2 guy, or are these, more like round 4, round 5 guys? Where do you guys have them?
Probably late third, depending on how their season goes, combine, all of that. If Gordon puts a back-to-back season like he had last year, then a lot of the doubts are gone, right? I would like to see the yards per attempt after contact, or it's not, we know what that means is you're getting smashed with line of scrimmage. You're just working your way through it. Well, as a Genty, he might get one and break off 5 yards and get tackled again. He's got more separation, more burst to him. But like I said, I put Genty kind of in that Bucky Irvin box right now, and I got Gordon, that physical, running back, got hands, but he's that physical pounding guy. No running back right now, unless you're a Bijan, you know what I'm saying, or in that Saquon, or Christian McCaffrey, but not when he came out of college. You know what I'm saying, like that. How are you taking that guy in the first round? Most of these running backs now are late 3rd round picks, mid 3rd round picks, and then you start to see the dominoes fall. So for those guys right now, I don't have them as 1 or 2. Right, so the first running back I think comes off the board in somewhere in the mid 3rd round. So yeah, they're late 3rd round, early 4th round picks.
Yeah, I think more so 3rd. Ollie will go higher. Again, you're just talking about people are going to look at the helmets. I mean, that's what you see that a lot in the NFL. And with him, though, for him to raise that to be, like you mentioned, what top 45 is what you asked, he definitely needs to have that back-to-back season. You can't have that one and done season. We've seen it. We've seen running backs do it, go back to college, and then they just fall off. So if he has that back-to-back season, yeah, you can argue the fact that he could be a top 45 pick, but other than that, no, I think he's a day 2 pick, round 3, late mid round 3, and then Genty, I think, is your stud wide receiver, RB round 4 type of running back that you're going to see go off the board. And then, as you mentioned, you don't really look at that draft capital when it comes to running backs. You got to look at it a little bit higher because no one's really going in that first round unless you're that top tier elite guys like Nino was saying. But I definitely think Ollie will go more just because he's playing in a different conference than what Genty is in that G5 there.
Next matchup, Auburn running back Jarquez Hunter, Florida running back Montrell Johnson. Nino, you're up first.
I went with the guy that didn't get beat out by a freshman most of the season last year. So I went with Jarquez Hunter. And I think the problem was he had some off-field issues, so he didn't get that work in early in the year. He was working just in the wrong department. Let's just leave it at that. So we weren't sure if he was going to start week 1. We weren't sure what was going to happen. You had a new quarterback who was Captain Crunch, Captain Checkdown, right? and Peyton Thorne. But 5'10", 210 pounds. I mean, he got almost 250 snaps, close to 915 yards, 7 touchdowns. He averaged almost 6 yards per carry. But again, 25 targets. A guy who had close to 20 receptions, 118 yards. Only dropped the ball once. He's sure-handed out the backfield. It's not the guy who gets that yards after contact. 650 out of his 900 came after contact. He was shifty enough to get 40 missed tackles, and 409 of the 900 were breakaway. So you can see that explosiveness coming out of come off the line. Yeah. 22 runs of 10 plus yards. Again, I'm telling you, the kid has it. And he shows up in the big games. He's also a chain mover. 39 first downs versus Ole Miss. 15 attempts, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns, over 6 yards per carry. Versus Bama, right? I'm talking about these top tier 4 and 5-star guys on his defensive front. 14 attempts, 93 yards, over 6.6 yards per carry. I mean, Montrell Johnson, he had 4 drops last year in passing. He was targeted quite a bit. 41 targets, 30 receptions. And his best game came against Georgia. I'm not going to knock him. 9 attempts, 82 yards. And you average 9.1 yards per carry against Georgia. We got to consider it. He reminds me, and I hate to say this because I caught a lot of shit about this guy, but I ended up being right in the end. It reminds me of Damian Pierce, right? He just reminds me of the same style, somewhere around that 150 attempts. He's going to get that bone ball style. Yeah, he has some explosiveness to him, but then, it gets in that 10-yard run and, this starts to die out. Probably going to get caught from behind. He can beat 3 downs because he can pass, bro. But he's just one of those middle tier backs where I think you could probably get a second contract out of Jacquez Hunter if he hits his ceiling and his full potential. So give me Jacquez Hunter. I've been a fan of him the last 2 years in a row. For me, I think Jacquez Hunter and Quint Allen Jr. from Syracuse. Those are 2 guys I think are in the same mold that have a lot to go and to prove this year alone.
I went Hunter too, but just to talk on Montrell here, consistently gain over 800. I think he's a solid committee back. Like, I don't think he's necessarily going to be that workhorse. I mean, he's averaging 5.3 yards per carry in his career right now in college, right? And plus, you mentioned the yards after contact for Jacquez Hunter, 649 on 911 yards. It's very similar for Montrell, less yardage because he had 817, but he had 537 yards after contact as well. So he is someone that keeps his feet moving. He's very shifty as well. So, one thing, Andy, you dawned on me when we were talking about Keon Coleman in the past, like the way the NFL's shifting, you have some teams that are going towards that committee back. So in a sense, I feel like Montreal could possibly be the better committee back where you can see some evolution in Hunter to be a lead back as well. But he's shown that he doesn't need that full workload to necessarily be productive when it comes to Montreal as well. But I think Jacquez overall is the better overall back.
That was our this or that segment. Let's go on to our next. 5 statements with Nino and SC. Statement number 1, Dylan Raiola is a top 10 quarterback in college football. SC, you're up first.
Right now, no. I don't think he is. I think he can be. I think he will be, but I don't think he is right now. I mean, I have him as QB 16. I think he is definitely a
hold the fucking phone, bro. Hold the fucking phone. 16?
Yeah, I'm at 16. I think he'd go in there and do work.
Pull that up. Who do you have? Who are the 15 quarterbacks ahead of him? I want to know.
I struggled to keep him outside. I told Andy, I'm like, I struggled. He's at like the 10, 11 mark for me. I'll give you my 10 while you live yours. And they're not in any order, but I'll just give you 10 guys. Beck, Wegman, Dot, Nico, Jackson Arnold, Quinn, Sellers, Dante Moore, Nussmeier, Childs, and Shador Sanders. That's my 10. I struggled with where he would fall with Shador and Childs. He's in that box for me. The fact that you got 5 dudes ahead of him, please talk to me.
So again, freshman coming in, I have Lagway ahead of him. I think I'm a bigger fan of Lagway when it comes to it. And then I have Kublik, Howard, and Salter.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik ahead of Dylan Raiola.
Yeah.
Have you watched film?
Yeah, I mean, Klubnik though is the veteran coming in though.
No, it's not coming in. It's what we've seen, bro. That's like saying you have Drew Aller ahead of him. I like Klubnik, and I know he's not better than what we've seen from Raiola already.
That's fair. Who'd you say though? What'd you ask? Who do I have after Klubnik? Then I have Lagway, Howard, and then Salter.
Will Howard?
Will Howard ahead of Dylan Raiola.
Yeah. This comes out of college production, right? I think Will Howard has a good season at Ohio State, no? And then I think it's better because he has better weapons around him than what Raiola has in Nebraska.
I'm willing to say Will Howard has worse numbers this year at Ohio State than he had at K-State last year.
Okay, so 16 is Raiola, 15 is Howard, 14
15 I
is
had Salter.
15 is Salter, 14
was Howard. Then I have Lagway, Klubnik, Milroe, Gabriel, Arnold, Sanders, Sellers, Nico, Connor, Garrett, Dart, Beck, and Ewers.
You have Jalen Milroe ahead of Dylan Raiola?
I have him at 11 right now, yeah.
At least you lowered Dylan Gabriel. You're still too high on him, but at least you
My head
lowered
just
him.
hurt. My eye's twitching, bro. My eye is twitching.
He will be. I don't think year one he's a top 10 quarterback, though. No.
I didn't say 10, but they're right. I don't know if there's 5 guys outside after the 10 that are better than him.
You had him at 11, right? So, yeah, I have, like I said, year one. He will be a top 10, but year one, I don't think he is.
Andy, the floor is yours if you have anything else to say after this one. I already said my piece, dude.
You can find my exclusive Devi content at the Devi Royale for $5 a month on the Patreon. Just skip that burnt cup of coffee and get yourself my rankings where you will know exactly where you should draft these quarterbacks. Now, I'll tell you one thing. Raiola is in my top 10.
So, hold on. So, out of the freshmen, Raiola, Lagway, saying who ranked those?
Me?
Yeah.
Raiola, saying Lagway.
I concur.
I have Lagway, Raiola, saying.
Wow. Maybe it'll be a green room recording conversation about those 3 because we'll have to. That's a topic for another discussion because that one would take over the whole show. But
Will Howard.
So, man, you talk about what they can do in the season. I think this season Howard does it. So
where did you have Will Howard before he committed to Ohio State? Like, was he in the top 20?
Not at that point. No, I think he was.
So he went to Ohio State that got a Chip Kelly offensive coordinated scheme thing where I got Judkins and Henderson, and he jumped up 10 spots.
You still have better weapons. I think can be more.
Okay.
Your
rankings. What are your rankings based off of? Are you talking about just pure college production? Like what is your rankings based on?
This is for the 2024 season and what I think they'll do. So I think Howard definitely goes out there and has a better season for him. So, I think Lagway is going to be the starter by the end of it for Florida.
So your rankings are based on college production for this season.
For this season, yes.
But it's not your overall thoughts of who the best 16 quarterbacks are in totality. It's about stats.
Correct. It's what they can do for this season.
You just contradicted yourself. You said you had Lagway over Raiola for this year. Raiola's starting week 1. Lagway, you just said, is probably not going to start to the end of the season. So how would he be better than Raiola if you're talking stats?
I said Lagway will start this season.
Week 1?
I think he's going to start. No, not week 1. I think he'll start by week 3, week 4.
But you think, but Lagway is above Raiola for you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Raiola is going to be throwing it like 40 times a game just by default.
Thank you.
That's fair. I think I'm a bigger fan of Lagway. I think Lagway is going to be a versatile dual threat type of type of quarterback that can make it happen. So I think he can have better stats.
Okay, if we're looking at these freshmen from a Devi perspective, so we're projecting to the NFL, would Raiola in this freshman class, would he still be where you have him? And overall, for this quarterback class, would you have him in your top 10? Because essentially, what I would assume when everyone does rankings, it's based off of their future NFL projections and stuff like that, not just what they're going to do for 2024 college football season.
Yeah, I think there's still Lagway, Raiola saying as the top 3 quarterbacks of the class. So I still think Raiola's going to be that number 2 and saying at the number.
And would Raiola be a top 10 quarterback if we're projecting for the NFL?
Yeah, that I said that in the previous answer. I said, yeah, he will be a top 10. I don't think he is right now.
I'm a little perplexed about your ranking system still after all these months. That would probably take up the entire episode for me to try to peel away these layers like they're onions, because
I've already started crying.
I don't fully comprehend how you do your rankings, because if people are coming to you and you're doing Devi rankings because you're going to be a Devi writer for FF Universe, who did like 120 profiles in 90 days for the NFL draft, you are their lead Devi guy. So if you're doing rankings for them, you're going to have Raiola at 16. That's going to be your published Devi quarterback ranking.
That's for the 2024 season. Correct. For 2024 season, I am at 16. I don't right now, I don't have like necessarily my overall complete rankings on where they're at. So for 2024, I think he's QB 16.
All right, we gotta take a timeout and from the remaining show sheet, because I can't leave this part because.
Okay. Hey, wait, pause. Let's make next show about rankings.
All right, next episode we'll talk about our rankings, but you can find my exclusive rankings on the Debbie Royale Patreon, Substack, and Discord. Go ahead, $5 a month. Skip that burnt cup of coffee. Dylan Raiola is top 10, so you don't have to worry about that. Statement number 2, Henry Parrish Jr. will have 1,200 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns this upcoming season. Nino, you're up first.
Absolutely not. I'm going to say one name. Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt will eat into that production. And I said before, I do believe there'll be more of a passing team. I do think the backs will get more targets out of the backfield this year. But Croskett Merritt had almost 200 attempts last year for 1,200 yards, 17 touchdowns. My man is a red zone finder. He got GPS in the skin, okay? So he's going to eat into that 10 touchdown mark that you put there. I honestly don't think Parrish even gets to the 1,200 yard mark. He may get 1,000, 1,060, 1,040 right in that realm. But I think both these backs are going to work hand in hand. And I think it's actually, a marriage made in heaven right there for both of those guys. I know Parrish has the ties to Ole Miss already. He's returned to where he once was, recruited to and played for. But this, by the time it would be his time to take over that backfield, Diggs will be healthy again, and Ulysses will be healthy again. Now you're looking at 4 mouths to feed. I don't think he's going to hit those numbers again. I do truly, honestly believe I'll put my flag out there and plant that Croskett Merritt will push him right down to the last game for RB1 in that room.
I said no too. I just think they're good. They don't have Quinshawn anymore, right? So they're not going to have that full lead back. I think they're going to run a committee. You mentioned a few guys. You didn't mention Ulysses Bentley also, who's still there, who can also do some work with them. Guy average, where am I at? 61.7 of his yards came after contact as well. Just a very elusive 5.7 yards per carry last season as well. So I don't think Paris is getting that. I don't think they're going to run the full workload like they had with Quinshawn Junkins last year.
He's never got more than 150 attempts, or maybe 163, I think was the most he's gotten in the season. I don't know if his body can handle that alpha RB1 load, the way he's built. He's more of that shiftier guy. That's why I say I believe him and Croskett Merritt together is a good combo to have. And then if one of those guys gets healthy, you know what I'm saying, you can mix that in. I can't see him. I know he averaged 6.3 yards per attempt last year and six something the year before. I just don't think there'll be enough attempts for him to get to that 1,210, because I truly believe Croskett Merritt will eat into those touchdowns aggressively.
Statement number 3, class of 2025 wide receiver Kamari Williams is currently a 3-star in the composites. His ability to track the football and creativity after the catch will allow him to be a multi-year starter at the Power 4 level. Nino, you're up first.
Now, before I make my statement, I will say, if he doesn't go to a P4 school year 1, okay, he will be in a P4 school by the time he ends his collegiate career. Okay, because I do see a path where he goes G5 1 year, balls out, makes a name for himself as a true freshman, and boom, now we're at the party, and I'm the guy with the hat on. He's got good hands. He's a downfield threat. He's physical, 6'1", 175, right? He does really well catching the ball in stride. We talk about like Torrey Horton, right? He uses his hands outreached to bring the ball in, which actually makes his catch radius larger than what it is. I feel as though Kamari Williams is in the same boat, right? Even when he's running in stride across the middle of the field, everything he catches is outstretched. Boom. None of this cradling shit. None of this chance for the ball to bounce off your chest. We're not wrapping up. Boom. Strong hands. Keep it moving. In stride. Getting them yards. And instant stride. Gazelle, he just eats him up. Like I said, he's a yak guy. Timmy two-step route there. He makes two moves, and he's gone. He's got good body control. He hasn't mind engaging that hand-to-hand combat. And look at his production already. He's what is he? 68 ranked in the class, but he put up 700 yards last year, 6 touchdowns, and the numbers right where I like it. 14.2 yards per catch, anywhere between 13, 5, and 15. That's a sweet spot for me for wide receivers coming in. I think this kid's going to climb boards, and I think after one more year in the pocket here, people are going to be like, oh, we kind of misjudged his talent level. Let me add that next star and throw him up another 15, 16 spots. So, yeah, I'm with it 100%.
Yeah, I agree. I had a multi-year starter, but my second note was that I don't think it's freshman year that he does it. But then after that, if you want to say sophomore, junior year, multi-year, then sure, I think that's happening. Definitely contested catch, man. This guy's a beast when he's going up for it. Has great ball control, has great body control as well. He knows how to shift his body around. If you want to talk about, elusiveness, I want to see a little bit more twitch when it comes to, just running those routes for him. But I do think he is going to be a multi-year starter at that power 4. I just don't know if we're going to see it freshman year. Right now, it's, stock commit to Florida. So if him and Lagway go there, I would love that. But again, I think we have to wait to see what he does or where he goes freshman year to say, okay, he's going to start off the gate.
Statement number 4. Give me your thoughts on class of 25 quarterback Tramel Jones. SC, you're up first.
Thoughts on him, I think he's a great athlete. I think he's someone that he's improved over year. He just sees what the calls are looking at him. Sorry, the question was different. That's why I was confused a little bit. But I do think that he is going to be someone that is going to be a great, if he goes to Florida State and does it, he has great completion percentage, over 60% completion percentage at 61, 3,000 over 3,100 yards passing. He knows how to get that zip behind the ball. So I actually like what I see in that talent, and I think he could do great things at that next level as well.
Listen, I love the kid. I think he's got, good compact throwing motion. What I do like about him as early, and you see in this, quarterbacks as they grow, they learn how to throw guys open, right? They may not be open. They throw to a spot, get him open. He's already doing that, right? I think he's 17 years old. 16 years old. He's already he has that capability. He's mobile. He just has to kind of secure the ball a little bit. He's a little bit erratic with it. I think he had double-digit fumbles last year when he left the pocket. But I love the kid's game. I think, 3,000 yards, 60% completion, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I mean, this kid's got juice to him. But I'm going to tell you something right now. I know Florida State seems to be the team got a stronghold on him, and maybe this will change it, Andy. I don't know, buddy, but it's been a while since we've seen Florida State bring in one of their own, groom them, and plug them in and throw them in the fire. It seems like the last 4 or 5 years, especially since Norvell's been there, it's been portal popping, right? We're going to hit the portal, get a guy, hit the portal, get our guy. Billy Napier is in this guy's call log on a daily basis, and what Napier is doing to try to save his job in this recruiting class and through the portal and bringing in this talent, don't let him get the guy to come in behind Lagway. Everybody wants to get that 4 or 5-star guy year in and year out, right? You want to have succession. If he leaves, if he transfers schools, if he goes and says, I'm going to take off as a junior, right? Boom, I'm going. Now you don't want to be left there holding your crotch. You want to have an answer and a succession plan. I'm telling you right now, Tramel Jones is the succession plan to DJ Lagway if they needed it to be. And Napier is going hard in the paint like Waka Flocka to get this gentleman. It's going to be an all-out Florida versus Florida State battle right down to the line, man. And right now, I'm going to give the edge to Billy Napier. I think he's cooking something like Walter White in the back of back of an RV, getting that good stuff right now. So.
Yeah, for those of you not aware, he is currently committed to Florida State, but there are a lot of rumblings recently that he might decommit from that, reopen his enrollment, and the likelihood is that Florida could be the team that ends up flipping him. Statement number 5, Micah Gilbert will be the wide receiver 1 for Notre Dame. Nino, you're up first.
I love this kid. I love everything he's got. His talent, the size, the strength, the route running, the burst off the line of scrimmage. His game, I love. I when he's committed to Notre Dame, I'm like, okay, this is before the mass exodus happened, right? He committed before Rico left, and the gentleman went to Cali. I'm drawing a blank right out left. Merriweather, you know what I mean? I'm like, whoa, Notre Dame's building room, and then Chauncey Stuckey left, who was a main factor in why Micah Gilbert came there. But will he be wide receiver 1 for Notre Dame? This was tough. I mean, he's an athlete, basketball and football. We saw him in the spring game ball up. I think Chris Mitchell's going to be wide receiver 1 this year. If he stays, Micah Gilbert, past freshman year, okay, yes, I do believe he could be the guy. I think he's a better prospect at the wide receiver room than Jaden Greathouse is. But I just don't know if he could surpass Chris Mitchell in year 1. From what I've been reading, I know he was a little dinged up, but Chris Mitchell's kind of got an off-field rapport with Riley Leonard already, which is obviously a bonus. And when you see stuff like that happen off-field, that usually tends to translate to on-field. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Mike Gilbert's not going to have that, but I don't think he's going to be wide receiver 1 in year 1. If he does stay and not hit the portal after that, I do believe he will be the alpha in that room for as long as he wants to be part of the Fighting Irish.
Man, they also got an FIU Chris Mitchell out there who I think can do some good damage for them as well. I mean, this guy
did you listen? Did you just listen to what I said, dude? I just said that my whole thing was Chris Mitchell would be the wide receiver 1.
Yeah, so sorry, my bad. I thought you said that. I thought towards the end there you said I think Gilbert will be it in the future. That's what I said. No, yeah, I think Mitchell's the wide receiver 1 there. This guy knows what he needs to do. He had his breakout season last year, 7 touchdowns, over 1,100 yards. So I think that's gonna be the guy that becomes just their favorite target out there for him.
Yeah. Another thing with Micah that I love, okay, is the IQ. And we're gonna test the IQ, doing a little bit of research. A little bit of digging. When you got NFL Hall of Famers and current NFL players that are your close direct cousins, and Darrell Revis and Jordan Whitehead for the New York Jets, bro, these guys are elite secondaries, right? I mean, Darrell Revis is probably top 3 DB ever. When you can have the ability to pick their brain about football and playbooks and breaking down what a receiver needs to do, what tells that DBs see on man, the IQ level that you have goes through the roof in the football game. So I love that part of it in alone.
Bonus debate. Talk me up. Ted McMillan, why am I too low on him? He's the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 for most people in the 2025 class. I'm not sure if he should be the top 3 in that class. Nino, you're up first.
This is touchy with me, Andy. You know that. But I could see him being outside of the top 3 because some people might have a Mecca in their 3. And I said it on the show last night for Player Profile with Matty Kwan. If you want to take this year's 3 or 4 and put them against last year's 3 or 4, I think we got a pretty close battle here. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the year, when the product's all said and done, you might be saying, wow, they're not that far ahead of what we thought they were to this class. With Ted McMillan, he's a fluid athlete. He's great in the short area quickness. If you like Drake London, right, then you would like Ted McMillan. The style of play, the catch radius, the go up and go get it and the contested catch. He does one thing that people that watch Ted, and I'm one of them, I'm a big fan of him, that he doesn't have is he's not going to make you miss. It's not miss, there's no missed tackles forced for him here and there. But you look at a guy that had 130 targets, 90 receptions, 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's a good route runner. He gets in and out of his breaks quickly. He creates separation. Another guy that catches the ball out in front. Another guy that can make those, if you like Javon Baker's elite, wild one-handed catch radius that he had, Ted McMillan's got all of that, right? And he's doing it while being covered by the best DB on the other team every single week, week in, week out. He's nearly unbeatable in the contested catches if you really want to talk about it. I mean, he has the Keon Coleman contested catch to go along with the outside capability of a Drake London. That's ceiling wise, okay? I'm not saying but I could see you having at 4, and to me, that wouldn't get me fired up. Now, you put him anywhere outside of 4, I'm putting on the gloves and we're fighting because I think he's an elite caliber wide receiver in the room. Again, I don't think if he could work on his separation after the catch, tackle wise, forces to miss tackles, I think you couldn't. It'd be a shame to keep him on the top 3. But I can understand why you wouldn't put him in the top 3 if that was your reason and why.
No, he's my 4, but you hit it on the mic because I have Igbuka up there. But I mean, you talk about contested catches. I mean, guy had 50% of his contested catches last season. The Drake London comp is phenomenal. In Madden, you talk about the Madden game. They have that stat where it's like phenomenal catch. His is gonna be 99. Like this guy can catch it from anywhere. Quarterback can throw it in the moon, and he's gonna reach up there and grab it. You do want to see more after the catch for him, definitely because he's tall and lengthy, right? So that may come in as a worry if he's not necessarily doing what he needs to do, because that separation should be there with those long strides that he can do there as well. He also had 5 drop passes in the past 2 seasons. Not big, but also a little bit, kind of worrisome there. Where's that concentration in those little slight ones? But I think he's without question a top 5 receiver in this next class. I mean, I think that's the bare minimum is 5. If you want to try to argue someone else could get 5, but I have him at 4. But to get him 2, I mean, that's people probably fading Evan Stewart, I would think, just because he's at a new system maybe or something, and people have burned him. But then I have him at 3 with Igbuka going above him just slightly. I want to see what he does without Calvin taking a lot of the underneath stuff out the way.
His ADOT was 12.9, right? His yard per catch was 15.5. So that kind of plays into it. But then you look at, he had 537 out of his 1,400 yards was yards after the catch, right? So when you look at those, was it all quarterback leading them, and it was a combination of both, right? He's able to if he gets it in short range, he can make extend the play, right? Or he can get downfield and make those big plays. So I think it's a combination of both. It's not just Fafita being the guy that's making his stats pad. I think they work well together. Like I said, he repeats that in a new conference this year, right? It's going to be very difficult to keep him out of it. You say top 5, I'll say top 5, but he's not 5. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't put him at 5. I would say no more than 4. But if you want to argue, he's no less than 5 at bare minimum.
I don't disagree with any of those takes. All the guys you mentioned, Nina, are guys I don't like at all. So it's just not my type of a player.
Right.
I think he is limited athletically. I think his inability to create might cause him more issues than what people want to believe in when he gets to the NFL.
After the catch, you're saying?
I think the entire process. In the Pac-12 doesn't play defenses except for a couple of teams, so he's able to put up those stats. With them going to the Big 12 defenses are a little bit better, so I might get some more answers this year. I just think the entire process from him getting off the line to his break in his route to the catch point to after the catch point, I have concerns with his athletic traits to be able to separate and win against the best of the best in the NFL. I'm not saying he's not a first-round pick. I think he will be a first-round pick. I just have more questions than most. He's a profile that I'm typically lower on than most. I was never a Drake London guy. I was never a Baker guy. You guys know I'm not a Keon Coleman guy. I see him being a more refined and a better athlete to a Johnny Wilson than being a poor man's Drake London, if that kind of makes sense.
I think he's gonna make his money on the catches that he does. I think you talk about separation. His separation comes because of his length and his wingspan to catch outside. That catch radius is phenomenal. So I think that's where he's gonna make more of his money, not necessarily in what he's doing to get to where the ball's at. You know what I mean? He's not the route running and stuff is great, but it's not the best of the class. His hands are gonna be what gets him to the NFL because he's gonna do those phenomenal catches.
Well, Andy, you're a very smart man, and I agree to your point about Pac-12. Okay, but let's go. And look, this is my guy, so I was.
I know.
Let's talk about top defenses. He faced Oklahoma in a bowl game, went off. Okay.
I mean, Oklahoma's defense. Come on.
That secondary. Secondary was good. Come on. They didn't get much pressure outside of Danny Stutzman, but that secondary was good. Billy Bowman's legit. Right? You have to admit that. All right. So Oklahoma, he went off. All right. Utah, good secondary. He went off. Washington State, Charles Smith-Wade was on him the whole game. Got toasted. Charles Smith-Wade went what? Third round? His draft, I'm pretty close. I mean, if it wasn't the third, it was the top of the fourth. So when he's matched up against top guys that he could be matched up, it's not his fault in the schedule, but he's performed. And he's not the type of guy that plays down to the competition. You know what I'm saying? I think this year in the Big 12, facing better defenses, he's going to put up the same amount of numbers, okay? They go 12-1, and he's a top 5 production-wise wide receiver. You have to put him in that class, and I think he's going to answer a lot of your questions. I get what you're saying. So, for me, when you said, that's why I said after the catch, right? Because I don't think he creates much separation after the catch, which is why I was out on Keon Coleman. That scares me. But I think when you said he's not very athletic, that I was like, whoa, because his contested catch, his radius, his one-handed catchability, his work in the perimeter of the sideline, that shows his athleticism.
What I mean by why I think he might be capped athletically is more of his hip fluidity.
Okay.
Being able to get in and out of his routes, being able to just being a fluid athlete on the field with pads on, to just being a natural route runner. Like that's the kind of thing that I mean. And him, he's not going to be a 4-4 guy. I mean, everyone knows that. That's not how he's going to win. My thing is a GM going to be like, I'm going to invest a top 15, top 20 pick on a guy that might end up being just a red zone monster? Or do I go with Luther Burden? Do I go with Evan Stewart? Do I go with Emeka, who can do all these things in the modern day NFL? That's my only concern, but I fully understand why people love him and why he's a lot of people's wide receiver 1. I just have these different concerns that I don't think a lot of people have thought about. They just look at the tape and just gush over him.
Right. When you say the red zone monster like Keon Coleman, like that's what because when I see your face and we talk to Keon and you say that he didn't disappear like Keon Coleman though, and he wasn't touchdown dependent because he had 90 receptions and 1,400 yards. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he had 10 touchdowns, but he didn't need those touchdowns to be relevant in games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with that, I mean, top 20 pick, I think it's definitely, I mean, you talk about these GMs, I know you had a 5th round grade on Coleman. He went pick 33, so I think these GMs, it definitely depends on who's on the board. Burden, I think, goes top 10. I think it's going to depend on what type of season Evan Stewart has for him to be considered the next one up. Ibuka, I think we want him to come out this year. I think he's going to be a top 20. So he's definitely a 1st round pick. Top 20, it's going to be someone is high on him and definitely gets him. And it's definitely going to be a scheme where they just want that kind of stretch guy for Ted there. Because I definitely think his athleticism, like it's his body, right? His body length, like it's not, you have such a tall and lengthy body, it's hard to make those initial cuts or anything like that, or be that fluid route runner. So that's where, again, he's going to win making those phenomenal catches that it's just go, wow, one owner, and they're going to be like, we have to go get this guy. We need him on our team type of deal.
And that was our debate on Ted McMillan. Hope that kind of opened people's perspective and just give a different mindset on a guy that a lot of people view as a wide receiver one. Those were our 5 statements. Now we head on to our next segment. We are doing New Year, New Name, Freshman Focus. SC, who's your freshman focus?
Yes, this could be an edge rusher at Tennessee. I mean, I know people are going to be talking about James Pierce Jr. out there, phenomenal edge rusher for him. But this guy, Jordan Ross from Vistia's Hill, 6'4", 233 pounds, explodes in that first step. He's just someone that really swims around the tackle. 72 total tackles last season with 23 tackles for loss and 12 and a half sacks. Played at Alabama. You talked about our guy earlier, played at a 7A school in Alabama as well. So that competition is there. Will he be in the rotation right away? I mean, I think he gets some snaps. I think he's just a name to keep an eye on because I think he's someone that we're going to be talking about down the road for sure, especially once we get rid of James Pierce Jr. this following year.
He's getting in the game. My man's getting in the game, and he's going to get into the game early. He might not get 40 snaps, you know what I'm saying, first couple weeks. They will have manufactured snaps for this guy. This guy is an absolute freak athlete. Not only did he do 27 and 12, like you said, with tackles for loss, he was putting up 8 points and damn near 9 rebounds on the hardwood. You got a big boy like this. That's all I see when I see 8.5 rebounds a game. It's explosive. Goes up there, attacks the board. My man's going to be an explosive unit on the opposite side of Pierce. So that means you can't just send the whole farm at Pierce. Oh, boy. He's going to be on the field because he's going to open up lanes for my man.
They're going to find out quick in the SEC because they're going to send the whole farm at Pierce and they'll be like, oh, snap, hold on, this guy's on the other side
That's
too.
what I'm saying. And if they keep sending that Pierce, he's going to start eating. So, yeah, this kid's going to get on the field. Like I said, I don't know if he's going to get 40, 50 snaps, but he'll probably get his 10 and 15 the first couple weeks. And if he puts up that production, he's going to be right there locked in.
Yeah, especially towards the end of the season.
Nino, who's your guy?
If you follow me on X, I posted about him last week. I'm going to go with a guy out in Jacksonville State, Justice Savage, 5'10", 195. That was before he committed. I believe he's 203 right now. My man is a big boy on the upper body. He's got big arms. He was the running back on Langston Hughes High School team with Air Nolan at quarterback. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's got 30 touchdowns on the ground in 2 years. He averaged over 6.5 yards per carry. Twitchy running back, but one cut separation. He's got good hip fluidity. He creates separation to the slightest of movements, man. You give my man the size of a dollar bill crack, he can get in there and work his magic. Like I said, 5'10", close to 200 pounds. Combination of good size and speed. You ain't tackling this dude very easily. The depth chart over there. Prior to last week, I know they brought in 2 guys, one veteran and a guy who's returning for them in Jacksonville, but the running back room is really wide open. And outside of 2 guys returning, Anwar Lewis was really the only guy with experience. They averaged over 230 yards per game on the ground last year. And now it was 300 voided attempts. I think now between the 2 guys coming back, it's like 190 voided attempts and 1,000 yards plus double-digit touchdowns. Someone's got to get that volume. My man he was in spring, he's been explosive. They're talking about him. They can't get the name out of the coaching staff's mouth. Every time he's on the field, it's a wow moment. Watch out for Justice Savage. It's a good chance by week 8 and 9. This guy's RB1 for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I absolutely love him. You mentioned, one thing I've heard is 2 things really. Getting saw. The size of the gap can be the size of a nickel, and he's getting in between it. The breakaway speed, like I saw him get caught, but it wasn't. He doesn't have to break away. Like you mentioned, he's very twitchy. Like this guy is going to beat you with his footwork. And then he's going to have that much room that you're not going to catch him because he's juking you and he's just, floating 5 yards to the left and then there's no one there. So I really love that about him. I think that looseness is there. He's one of those, again, I'm going to bring up Madden for whatever reason. I've been seeing a lot of Madden stuff on my X, but, you talk about the juke button and stuff. Like he's the guy that just kind of gets to the side and just goes in there. Like he knows how to get very small. You think about it, that he's going to beat people like that. And that's something you want to see at that level, especially when you have a bigger guy going against these 6'7", 6'8", 6'5" monsters that's on the defensive front. He doesn't need to have big gaps to get there. He'll get there and then he'll use his footwork to gain an additional 10 yards. So absolutely love that pick.
So I blocked out this next part because I was going to have a rant.
I know you weren't.
But I don't think that guy deserves the time and day. Only thing I will say is you should not be drafting Hakeem Williams over Micah Hudson.
I'm a Kim Williams guy, and I know that.
And so if you are having your drafts coming up, just take that into consideration. You should never be drafting Hakeem Williams over Micah Hudson, and you should definitely be careful who you follow on X. You can always follow any of us. We can give you some helpful advice. Some people out there, they really showed what they were really about.
Do you have a question though? Because Hakeem didn't really, he was big star coming out last year, right? What would Hakeem need to do this season to climb up on your ranks? Because I feel he underdid what we thought he would do coming out as a freshman. He just didn't showcase anything. You have a lot of freshmen that do that. Is there anything he can do to necessarily climb your ranks this season for it?
Well, I have a whole thing that I did for him, so I can go through that. He's not a refined route runner. He doesn't understand tempo and spacing. He wins on raw traits and athleticism. He came into Florida State last year overweight. There were reports last year that he wasn't taking practice seriously. You saw action during blowouts. He had 10 or more snaps against Southern Miss, Va Tech, Syracuse, Georgia, and he saw extensive action, like 20 plus snaps against Southern Miss and Georgia. In those two games, he had 2 catches for 18 yards. For the season, he had 5 catches for 80 yards with 1 touchdown. Now, in this tweet, this guy mentioned that he's someone who's physical and a big target to win contested catches. He had 2 contested throws last year, 0 catches, 1 interception. So he is a guy.
He is a contested catch guy, though. He just
in high school.
Yes,
right. In high school against very low competition, against guys who are like 5'10" and under. So yeah, when you're doing it against that, yeah. And then in the spring game, they grabbed Malik Benson and Jalen Brown into the portal. But in the spring game, this was a quote from a beat writer who was there. Hakeem Williams and Kentron Poiter must not have been comfortable playing in a construction zone as they were nowhere to be found. I came away unimpressed by the receiving corps, even if they faced stiff competition. In his opening press conference statement, Mike Norvell called out the unit, mentioning missed opportunities on offense and dropped balls.
Yeah, what's funny is Keon Portier, or whatever his last name is, he had gotten extraordinary buzz and compliments from the coaching staff going into the spring game. And I think he had the most receptions out of anybody besides Malik Benson in the spring game. But as far as Hakeem Williams, he was out of shape. He was so raw last year, he couldn't even catch on to the playbook, which is what kept him off the field. He only knew a few routes and a few plays last year. That's why when he was on the field, he was more of a decoy because he only could do a minimum amount of stuff. He's taken that overweight and turned that shit into muscle this year. He's a big fella and he's cut up. It didn't pull no Rocket Raheem. You know what I'm saying? He's fine-tuned. I think he's taking it a little bit more seriously this year when he's seen guys that were of less of talent than him pass him up in the depth chart. And even in the spring early, he wasn't talked about. All he was talking about was how big he looked. Starting to get a little bit. I think he's starting to come around. I don't think that he will. We talked about this already. I don't think he's going to be wide receiver 1 for them. Yeah. I don't even think he's going to be wide receiver 2 because I think Jalen Lucas is going to be wide receiver 2 for them. But I think there's a chance that he can rise rankings. For him to climb back into where I wanted him to be coming out of high school, he would have to give me 40, 45 receptions in that realm, somewhere in the 650, 700 yards and a couple touchdowns for me to reconsider.
Him and Jerry on Dickey, I was super high on coming out as freshman. I definitely dropped them because same situation with Dickey. I just saw when I went to spring game in Oregon, I saw other receivers that looked better than it. And you talked about being the overweight. Here's just a quick question too. Treylon Burks, I think, was a very guy. At Arkansas had great production there, and we kind of seen it slide down that. And I'm looking at my rankings, and I get great knowledge from y'all. But you also mentioned, Andy, the NFL is evolving, where you can't just be big and good to contested catches. You had to have that some sort of twitch to you. You had to have some sort of agility. That the catches, the phenomenal catches are great, but that's not going to get you to the next step in the NFL. It can get you there, but it's not going to get you to the next step in the sense of that second contract. And we're kind of seeing that with Burks right now. I mean, they brought in a whole new plethora of wide receivers for Tennessee, and Burks is over here coming in overweight to camp as well. So is he following that same trajectory? I hope not, because I was high on him, but just like I was high on Dickey as well, I need to see more of him this season for sure.
Burks is always overweight. They just manufacture touches to him. When they're force feeding you oatmeal every day, every game, and just you're the only guy to give it to you. Well, we're getting you in space, give you the ball. It doesn't matter if you run with lead in your ass. You're going to get 8, 9, 10 receptions, 12 targets a game. You put up 100 yards, 1,000 yards, double the touchdowns. But he was always a big dude, and he was never fast.
Yeah.
I was never a Hakeem Williams guy. I just didn't like his tape from last year. I thought he was overranked by the service. I didn't like him last year. So when I heard all the camp buzz from last year, it wasn't a shock for me. So between him and Dickey, like, I never valued Hakeem Williams at all. With Dickey, I did like Dickey. I thought he had a lot of traits that could win at the next level. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody knew how serious his injury was until at the end of the season when it came out, with his injury, and then the timeline for that surgery, it fit why he didn't see the field in all of the games. So once we got the injury, notice about Dickey, it made more sense. But with Dickey not doing much in the spring game, I think his best bet is to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think he could be one more year. I think Dickey might stick it out.
Do you think he can work into the rotation? I mean, you guys are both Oregon guys. So do you think he can get into the rotation, not necessarily the wide receiver 3, because they have Holden and then they have Bryant, but can he mix in as the 4-5?
I believe so, because he can work those short intermediate routes. He's that physical guy. He's got that strong upper body, right? He's got some good route running to him too, but he can play that short game, that bubble screen, playing that 10 yards and under to get a rapport with the QB. And then we could put him on the outside and let the guy do what he normally does. But he can play on both parts. You know what I'm saying? He can play in, he can play out. They used him in the spring game kind of everywhere. They had him in the backfield. They had him in motion a lot. So, he had a couple of drops. He needs to work on that as well. But I don't think he has to leave yet. I think if he doesn't have any production this year, okay, then we're going to have problems. I think you're going to see in these games where it's blowouts, he's going to get in there. And you're going to see Dante Moore in there. And if they have a connection, you start to see a rapport with them going forward, and he starts to, get rid of this drop. Be more focused in the route running in his craft. I think you might see him stay, and he could be the 1 or 2 the following year.
2 things on that. Dan Lanning's recruiting. Stay tuned for the because I'm going to be talking about what they do this weekend. They have a ton of recruiting 2025 guys coming in. He's recruiting and keeping it. Jeremiah McClellan. This is a freshman wide receiver coming in. This guy looked phenomenal. This is the guy I'm watching in the wide receiver room to make a jump into that, because the veterans will get that. Dickey will need to do something to get in that rotation. I don't know if he does, man. I think this freshman McClellan can come out and actually be above him in that rotation, and I think it's going to have to force Dickey out. Part of me really feels like Evan Stewart may not come out. I feel like he may stay as well. That will be time will tell, but I really feel that may happen for him to have 2 years of great production at that next in the Oregon as well. So I don't know. I love Dickey. I love him. I drafted him pretty high in my CFF leagues and everything like that. But this Dan Lanning's using his recruiting class. He's using this wide receiver room. They have some guys in there that you don't talk about. You mentioned Holden, that actually is pretty good. Ted Johnson speaks about Holden, that he's a great wide receiver, that he's one of the underrated ones that people aren't talking about. Justice Lowe, another guy. They have guys there. It's more so it's just a very, very deep wide receiver room that, truthfully, outside of Tez and Evan Stewart, everyone's really scratching for playing time at this point.
Right, but then after this year, if Evan Stewart hits the draft, it's 4 guys off the top. You got Tez gone, Evans gone, Holden's gone, your tight end's gone, right? So, and the fact that Dan Lanning came out and said that Dickey is light years ahead of where he was last year, and he's teaching the freshmen. Your boy McClellan is learning from my guy Dickey. So I wouldn't say that McClellan's passed him yet, right? I will say they're putting Dickey in position to win. They're putting him in position to kind of get better and get his feet wet. I don't think he has to leave. I do think there's a chance that he's going to get some touches this year. And next year, there's a good chance that he could be the guy. Now, if they get to Corian Moore, that's a story for a different day.
That's heading into this weekend, but that's exciting.
Is Dickey still wearing 98?
99.
99.
I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Can't wear 99. I'm out. Sell them. Now we know freshman values can fluctuate weekly, and so does the stock exchange. So that leads us into our next segment. Nino, stock up or stock down? Who is it?
Stock up, and Soup Man, you can go suck a fart through a straw, buddy. Okay, I'm gonna go with wide receiver out of UCF, Braydell Richardson. My man's got good size and speed, 6'1", 180. He's explosive, and he's got a quick first step. You add in some fluid hip movement, some good suddenness. He creates separation quick. He's got that stop and go ability. And outside of Kobe Hudson, I know Townsend's there, but Townsend only put up 33 receptions for 325 yards and a touchdown. Okay. Javon Baker's gone. Outside of Hudson, they're all wide open wide receiver room. Wide open. I mean, I understand UCF to bring in these old dogs through the portal. It seems like guys that got one leg left, one gasp of air left in their college career are coming in running it. Adgie Hall just came in from Texas. You know, I think he's like 35 years old. He's got one more run in it. But I have a funny feeling that this gentleman, Braydell Richardson, can take over, be that wide receiver too, be a nice compliment to Hudson. You're looking at 1,000 yards and almost 80 plus receptions, 110 targets that are voided in that room. Somebody's got to get them up. If he gets half of that, as a freshman, I'm all in. This kid's going to be a dude, and I think the opportunity is right there for him.
I mean, I think he has that speed to take out the top of the defenses, and that's something you want to see, especially at UCF. Man, UCF is going to be a monster this year. They got some weapons there all around, and I think that's going to be one of your underrated teams where by the end of it, we don't know how the playoffs going to shake out. We may see them. We'll see.
Ooh.
SC, stock up or stock down? Who is it?
Taking stock down on Van Dyke, man. I don't know why. I know why he transferred. I mean, they brought in Cam Ward right at Miami, but I don't think he's not doing anything better than what he would have done in Miami and Wisconsin. And I just think this is going to hurt his draft stock horrendously. He's someone that should have entered that draft and just said, all right, I'm going to take it what I can. I mean, we're going to talk about him next year as just an undrafted guy. I feel like I don't think he did anything better for his career going to Wisconsin. He left a plethora of weapons at Miami, and now he's going somewhere less. He hasn't thrown for over 3,000 yards yet, and I don't think he's going to see that at Wisconsin either, so I have a stock down on him.
I mean, he's got to be an upgrade for Tanner Mordecai, right? I mean, Mordecai came out in first two games and threw like 6 interceptions last year, right? And they had to bench. So he's got to be a better upgrade than that. You mentioned Cam Ward, but I think he hit the portal before Cam Ward had even decided to go to Miami. Cam Ward was in the NFL draft, so it had nothing to do with Cam, really. He was just like, I'm out. But, like, you're looking at Maybury Medier as a freshman or Tucker Ashcroft. Like, if you can't beat those dudes out handsomely, running away with it, you should be able to show up drunk every single practice and beat out the competition over there at Wisconsin right now. And in the systems that they're putting together with the wide receivers out there, you should have no problem. People say, oh, well, Phil Longo's wide receivers in that offensive system is A1, right? Year one, usually there's some hiccups. Year two with him and Fickle together. So TBD should be in a perfect position to succeed. If he doesn't do better than last year and pretty much hit personal highs, and all of his, statistics this year, I'm with you. There's a good chance you're looking at a Sammy Hotman drop.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a Braden Locke guy for Wisconsin.
I think that's someone that.
Yeah, he has all the tools there. He's been in that system. Longo chose him out of the portal last year. He's always been someone that I always thought could be the guy. And if Tyler Van Dyke struggles early on, there's been talk all spring that Braden Locke has been just fighting it out.
But what did he do last year when Mordecai was terrible? Did they give him any run?
Yeah, he played toward the end of the season. I think he had one start last year. This
Yeah,
is
he
just
had
this is just the
Well,
three.
top of my head.
He had three of them, three
Okay, he had
starts
3 starts.
against Illinois, Ohio State, and Indiana. And
That's pretty tough.
the best he did. Illinois and Indiana are not tough. He went 50%. I mean, he didn't have any interceptions. I'll give you that. He's an accurate guy. He doesn't throw many turnover-worthy plays. I'm with you. I mean, hey, listen, if Mordecai doesn't live up to any type of buzz, why not go to the guy you handpicked? I just get concerned that you couldn't take that job away from Mordecai earlier with how bad that dude was.
word for word, wouldn't surprise me if Braden Locke wins the battle and starts after a few games if Van Dyke doesn't come out swinging.
Oh shit.
I just think it's not. I mean, I think it's something where it's like you said, get your guy, help him develop. You're not going to benefit if Van Dyke's doing bad and not doing anything with the team. Why not just take the shot and say, all right, we're going to have our guy go in? So
And that system is made. Just give the ball to Will
Yes.
Pauling. That's
Yes.
all you have to do. Feed Will Pauling, give him 120 targets, and you should be fine.
Did they bring in
All you
Joseph
have to do.
Griffin?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they I think they got another wide receiver.
Joseph Griffin, he's good, man. Now,
downfield, baby.
we are going off topic. This is not part of the show. You brought it up, so I'm going to talk about this guy. Joseph Griffin, last year, one of my first articles that I wrote about him, his stretch down the line at Boston College, what he did down the stretch, I think he had like 18 catches for like 6 touchdowns. There was a game where I think it was a third down or 4th and goal, like 10 seconds left. The quarterback, Moorhead, threw the ball for him, came down with the ball, caught the touchdown, won the game. At one point, he had all the confidence and all the faith. He has the tools in there. This past season with who's your guy? Thomas Castellanos. They just could not get on the same page. But Joseph Griffin is a guy that you should not forget.
He has talent. He has all the talent in the world. Got to get in the books. I think it has to do with the same reason why John Emery Jr. couldn't make it work at LSU. I don't want to talk bad about anybody at BC because I'm a BC guy. So I wish him luck in Wisconsin. But have a fun. From what I've heard through the grapevine, it was more an academic thing than it was getting on the field and talent-wise.
Well, it's a good thing he's going to Wisconsin. Doesn't have to worry about that in the Midwest.
I love it.
Great episode, guys. SC, where can people find your work?
yeah, man. So at the PPR, so on X, I got stuff going out on CFB Nation. Got the show The O where I talk about the Oregon Ducks, and then helping out with the top 4 consensus for CFB Nation on the IDP side of the ball there. So look out for that coming out. Defensive tackles should be the first one coming out there for it. I'm doing the Devi thing for FFU. Got my Devi Diamonds coming out. First one dropped. I got Shadur Sanders. So keep that in mind there. And that's coming. And then also with the league winners, future phenoms, but talking to our head guy there, I'm gonna be talking about the SEC and talking about some guys that used to be watching out for and some surprise teams that could make a place in the SEC as well. So keep that up. And then RPO, got some things coming out with the NFL side of the ball there as well.
Nino, you have your hands in 50 different bags. Where can people find you and what are you doing?
CFB Nation. That's the bread and butter. Obviously, the league winners, some articles. We got the future phenoms. I do a little bit of graphics and stuff there. Devi Degens, my boy, Nerd Boy. We're talking Devi. Pretty much over there, what we talk about is the process. What is your process? How you evaluate, how you decide your ranking systems. What makes you, like we say, the stock market and Devi goes up and down. What makes you change your landscape and what you like about guys? So we do that. We go through each, position because from week to week, the position in the market does change. So you catch me over there doing that. And hopefully I put in my application with John Knob. Hopefully I can get that Fantrax writing some articles over there for college football fantasy in the upcoming run. So if you want to catch me, you catch me at _ Nino Brown __.
And you can find me at Andy_Pham1. You can find all of my Devi content at the Devi Royale. For $5 a month, you can join our Patreon. Skip that burnt cup of coffee, join the Patreon, and get a leg up on your league mates. We will give you a different perspective on the Devi market, and we have big things coming up. Just wait. Now, we'll be back next week. But before we go, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, comment, subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple, give us a rate and review. And we'll see you next time on Future Phenoms.